Welcome to season 2 of the Jeremy Mullins podcast, where we take a deep dive into different educational topics to help you optimize your life. I am Jeremy. I am your host here today with the podcast co host and co owner of United We Stand, Mr. Jeffrey Reno.
What's going on?
Another day, another, I want to say, another man. Last night was tough. The dog is sick. You know a few things about that, right?
It's never ending. You're just trying to keep them alive for some reason.
Oh, I don't know. Bridget, or sorry, Brielle had a stomach virus, and I think she's passed it around. So I end up getting it. I don't know if the dog is truly sick with the stomach virus, or the fact that she's been eating a little bit more human food because of the baby, and she just has this sensitive stomach. I don't know. But spent yesterday cleaning up, the kitchen floor, and she just kind of whined last night. So it's like, instinct when you hear the whine, you don't want to clean that up again, man. So you're up. So I think I
Mhm.
was up at midnight and 2 letting her out, and then KD hit like 4 and 5 this morning. So needless to say, she's at the vet. So a little extra caffeine to kickstart my day.
Yeah. We had a throwing up fit with him the other day. A little bit too much human food. Definitely led to his. So
Yeah, man, it happens. Like, see, we as humans aren't the only people that love certain foods, right? That might not be good for us, So got to practice that self discipline so it doesn't happen.
that's right.
Hey, a lot of feedback on what is going on in the social media world. So we figured we'd stay hot on this topic and talk about what we're seeing in our life on social media. And I think it's just always funny what you're targeted. You know what I'm saying? Like you click on one quote funny thing and then you get a bunch of them. So like I've been clicking on some downhill mountain bike, and now it's like just fed downhill mountain bike stuff. So hopefully I don't hit any crashes like some of those though. Man, there's some nasty ones out there.
My Facebook, actually, when I bought the bike from you, my Facebook, I don't know if I spoke too much. I talked about biking too much, but it was just downhill crashes every video on my Facebook. And I had to I don't know, I just had to refresh and start liking other things because I was tired of seeing people die on mountain bikes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and great conversation, and I don't know when this one will be posted versus mine and Monte's that we did earlier in the week about, sport and really trying to mesh that word, of hobby, adult hobby into sport. Like, I think there's so many things that we learn from sport and playing sports. And I think people should just continue to play a sport, and what sport you're playing can vary year to year, and once again, this thought process that sport has to be competitive with other people. You can be competitive with yourself, and I love the sport of riding bikes, right? And once again, am I getting paid for it? No. Am I really good? No. But it's cool to be able to go ride the same terrain, on the same bike, and see if you get a little bit better competing yourself, right? And there's such a joy out of it. So, you guys, if you've listened to that podcast, make sure you do it. I think it's great mindset to take that you're always an athlete, right? We should always treat ourselves as an athlete because that's going to help us, with this goal of living that longer, healthy lifestyle.
And I don't know if kind of mountain biking is like for you what it is for me for golf, but when I get out there, I'm able to shut my brain off and I just focus on that. Like for some reason, I'm able to separate the world and golfing.
Yeah.
It might
And,
be
and
simple.
you know, I know me and you haven't really discussed this in detail, but what I'm trying to get people, to understand is, if we look at why student athletes should get into sports, is it builds so many qualities. It teaches you a lot about life. But unfortunately, a lot of people stop playing sports into, junior high, high school, and college, right? Well, when do we see a lot of people with health problems after that? Because they are less active. So I think it's very important for people to maintain some type of sport, and any activity can be labeled as sport. It's just this overview of we think sport has to be football, basketball, things that the professionals play, right?
Right.
Professionals play golf, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know, but that's a different level. It doesn't mean that you can't play it. And like you said, you can't reap benefits out of going and playing around golf.
Yeah. I mean, just like kind of what you said, I can go play the same golf course and my metric for me getting better is like, oh, did I shoot better today? Or maybe I didn't score better per se, like the numbers higher, but for some reason I did one thing better that I typically don't do better in other scenarios. So that's just a win.
It just practicing and playing sport teaches you a lot about how to be successful in life, 100%, right? And the
Right.
competition always doesn't have to be against other people, it can be against yourself. But hey, hot in social media world, especially inside of my domains right now are two big things. First and foremost, Team Alpha Weekend slash event at First Form headquarters is going to be July 9th to July 12th. There we go. I was missing a
Oh,
day.
12th. Yeah. Yeah.
July 12th. The 9th is on Wednesday. The only thing that's going to happen on Wednesday is check-ins, and then 2 full days of briefs and lectures, followed by a ruck together on Saturday. So a couple questions coming through the pipeline we could answer here. I would love for everyone, even if they only attend one day or just do the ball game, whatever the case is, purchase a ticket. Makes it streamlined for us. Your ticket's going to have over $100 of retail of apparel, right? So if you get, even if you just go to the game with the team, you're getting your money's worth through apparel and of course the ball game. Okay. You don't have to be in shape. I've got some new people that are starting their wellness journey and they're like, Jeremy, I'm kind of intimidated. Don't be intimidated. The morning workouts are your workout. It'll just kind of be an open gym format. And yes, I figure there'll be like, I might do a workout and people will jump in with me. It doesn't mean everybody has to do that workout. Okay. So it's not like a smoke session or hard workouts. It's your own workout. You can make it as hard as you want to, and relatively intensity for you. Then all other breakout sessions would be educational, right? So if we do some instruction on shoulder mobility, then we'll step out and work on shoulder mobility, work on stabilizing muscles, that type of stuff. So it'll be instruction, not necessarily, once again, a smoke session. And then, of course, the ruck on Saturday is going to be time domain, which means, hey, we're going to walk for X amount of time or ruck for X amount of time. Therefore, the pace and the distance will be dictated based on you, not necessarily a certain distance. Okay. So sign up, man. I think it's going to be a great time. We're about half full right now. I'd love to see, a big group there. And there's some small things that a couple of people reach out. Well, what about family for extra tickets? Once we close sign up, I'll know how many people we're getting. I'll know what section we can get at the St. Louis Cardinals ball game. Then I'll know a little bit more about extra tickets. And we're talking about, as a group, anybody that's interested, getting a shuttle bus for the game on Saturday. So people want to have a few drinks at the game, quit drinking, and then that way, by the time they get shuttled back to the hotel or headquarters, it would work from that standpoint. So we are going to work that piece offline, because I'm sure there's going to be some attendees that want to drive themselves, and there might be some attendees that want to get a shuttle bus, to drive down, wait on us, and then we can ride it back home. So that'll be a piece we'll work on after the fact.
Yeah, and just to double on the fact of, people maybe feeling they're not necessarily in shape. The whole weekend is super community based. 99% of it is just chatting with like-minded people who are trying to better themselves. Cornhole, walking around,
Yeah.
eating good food, and
Yeah, I
just
guess
having a good.
I left that out. Thursday night and Friday night, we do dinner at headquarters. We have it catered in, where we just sit around and hang out. The first night is more just that communication, hanging out with individuals. And then Friday night, we have a cornhole tournament and we stay a little bit later, maybe have a few adult drinks if you drink. And yeah, just building relationships. I think that is something that is one of the important things that we do at First Form. And I've always, looked at, I've done it good before I joined First Form because I feel like, owning a gym, working with people, it was always about relationships. I like to say I don't have many enemies that I know of in this life. Even people that I've had run-ins with or whatever, like there's a mutual like, hey, I'm sorry, I did wrong, and they can respect that, right? Um, so that's one of the underlying goals is build those fun and positive relationships.
Cool. And then I did see on social media next for you, you're kind of building up something month to month there in Tallahassee.
Man, I feel like you just tossed me a big softball up to hit it, right?
That's
Speaking
right.
of building fun and positive relationships, yeah, so something new as I'm getting, adjusted here into Tallahassee and with First Form, they're doing this with some athletes and some people in their core group is, once a month I'm going to try to have a community-based workout. And once again, the workout is not a smoke session. I'll set it up to where it is time domain so that a beginner, can do the reps that they're comfortable with. So we'll probably do like 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off for 6 sets, push ups, lunges, squats. People want to use a ruck, for extra weight, they could, that type of stuff. So you can make it as hard as you need to be for your fitness level, but you can have a good time no matter what the fitness level. So we're going to get together. We're doing it Memorial Day weekend on Sunday in the evening because my thought process is like, people are like, well, what do I do? And unfortunately, a lot of people go out and like eat bad food and drink. Well,
Hmm.
that's not the only way that we can socialize, right? And Don't get me wrong. I like to have a cold beer every now and again or a bourbon every now and again, but that doesn't and shouldn't be the only way that we can socialize with other like-minded individuals. Um, so we're gonna do a workout and then we're gonna play on the trails. I got someone leading a bike ride so that Brady wanted to ride bikes. But I can't lead you. I'm gonna be leading a ruck. So I've got another dad that was on our NICA team. He's gonna have his sons there and they're gonna lead a bike ride. So if people want to come out and ride bikes, they can. People want to ruck, they want to run, they want to walk. Like we have all that. So this is our first one. So I'm super excited about it. Had pretty good response yesterday by some people like just haven't met down here, and I haven't even posted in the gym I go to yet, or even into like some of the biking Facebook community here. So we're hoping to have a good amount of people show up, and then I'll look for another event in June that we'll do, and we'll kind of go from there.
I like this because I know when you immediately made the post, there's a few Team Alpha people that were like, "Oh, I want to do this in my area,"
Yeah.
and so I'm excited to see whether First Form adopts it or whether the podcast kind of does their own. We do our own thing, but I'm just excited to see one of the organizations kind of start doing community events.
Yeah, and it's yes, I'll be doing it in this area, but we you and I've already talked about like we definitely do stuff in the Kentucky area, right? And that may be we have a little bit of room at headquarters there where we could do a small lecture to people, or
Hmm.
and then go out and do it, right? Or we could ruck around there and do a little small workout in the back session, like we've got availability, and so I'm excited to see where this goes, and once again it comes down to the same thing within the podcast. I think a lot of people listen to this podcast. We have 200 to 400 downloads on almost every one of our podcasts, which means there's let's just say 300 of you guys that are in this community, and you're here for a reason. And it's like-minded individuals that are trying to get better, and that's what we're trying to do with these meetups. And I think it's needed. I think especially if I look at it from a standpoint, and I took this as a compliment really well at church this past weekend. One of the guys come over and he's like, hey, I'm glad you and your family joined. Like, we need more dads like you. And I'm kind of like, what did he mean by that? Right. And I think it's more of like, we need more male leadership, you know, that is, and when I say this, I don't want people to think that there's a certain image you have to look, but like strong and confident and can have conversations with individuals. And I think, you could call it COVID, you could call it social media. I think people have lost the ability to have great conversations one on one, to be great leaders, and able to be humble, but to be strong. And that's what I want to do, in my life, and with these group meetups, is teach people to be great people and to be great leaders and stewardship of trails and stewardship of living a healthy life.
And I think the people that are going to show up to this lived that lifestyle. And like what you said, maybe it was COVID, maybe it was 30 years ago, but they did live that lifestyle. And when they start showing up to these events, they're going to see that ambition and the fire in their eyes kind of light back up
Yeah.
and get back on the train. So it's going to be exciting to see.
Yeah. So that has definitely took up a lot of my social media, past couple of days. I've still got, like I said, I've still got a few more paces to hopefully post that, and hopefully have a good turnout. And like I said, we're looking to do one in June. And hey, if you're within a couple hours of Tallahassee, love to see you come out. And if you're local to Florida, I don't have to do it here. I can do it anywhere. Just takes a little bit of planning. So you're in Panama City. I know we talked about going over there, doing one with my buddy Jeff in Panama City, which would be an awesome one. Or sorry, he's in between Panama City and Destin, and they have a cool like ice bath type sauna facility. So we're talking about doing something where people show up for a small fee. They could use that facility afterwards. Like, so it's gonna be fun to see what all comes up with this. And even during the fall, I'd like to do it here, on campus with Katie's softball team. Do something with the softball girls and maybe the baseball, like they're involved, and,
Mhm.
and so I'm excited to see where the community workout goes and what we can do with it.
Awesome. Well, I know my feed's been full of government style stuff, financial stuff, tariffs. So I don't want to go down the political route, but I would love to get, I know we've had a couple episodes on it, but budgeting on where do you see like protein, supplements, all the way into peptides? Where do you kind of where do you put that in your budget?
Oh,
Where
gotcha.
I know there's some people like me where I'm like, oh, $60 for protein, like that's a lot.
Yeah.
Instead, Now you've convinced me of it. Now it's part of groceries,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that makes it easier.
Well, I think, first and foremost, and I can't remember if we've done, a podcast on budgeting. Maybe we did early on with Tony, when he come on from Green Up, which, man, Tony, if you're listening, we got to get you back on here. I know you've been super busy, but we got to get back on teaching some of these concepts that Reno and I are not specialists in, right? But yeah, I think, budgeting 101 or financial 101, having a budget is very important. Okay. Kind of knowing where does my money go? I got X amount of money coming in each month. Where is this money going? So that, and I like to say this, like, hey, Christmas is every year, guys. And just because, and it is December 25th every single year, right? So Christmas
Yep.
shouldn't sneak up on us. Shouldn't something that we should plan for, right? And don't get me wrong, there's things that come up and emergencies. Yes, got that type of stuff. But that'll be the second part of the conversation. Why you should have $1,000, or more as like a safety quote fund, so that when emergencies come up, okay. Um, but yeah, having a written budget, and how do we talk about that specifically for supplements? So I think you need to have, okay, what do I spend on supplements? And this goes a lot with what I feel ethically comfortable recommending to everybody. I look at it from a budget standpoint, right? So I feel comfortable saying magnesium, omega 3s, a multivitamin, and creatine everybody should take. And the most expensive thing out of that is the omega 3s. Okay. And I worked it up on something. I want to say it was like $1 or something a day. So we're talking, less than $40 a month. You can get those four supplements into your routine. Okay.
Mhm.
$40 a month. And a lot of people, that's where it's like, okay, I got it. If you don't have $40, we need to really look at where we're spending our money. Okay. And then, from there, the other question comes in because, yeah, protein is expensive, protein powder, but I would not put that inside of the supplement budget, because if you're doing protein powder, then you're not doing food. So I would put your supplement budget, as far as your protein powders, your protein bars, the meat sticks, inside of your food budget, right? So they're two different line items. Okay. Yes, you might be buying it, from First Form as far as one purchase, but you would kind of break it apart and be like, okay, these are my supplements and this is food. Okay. Because that's how I save money when I travel, for military orders or travel in general. I'll do protein shakes versus going into Subway and spending $20 for a sub. Because by the time I get double meat, to get my protein in,
Mhm.
it's $18 to eat at Chipotle, Qdoba, Subway, you name it, because of the additional protein.
Yeah, and when I travel for work, I've actually my last 2 trips, I've taken, some meal prepped meals,
Yeah.
just from, like, Kroger, various places that they've started having their own meal prep companies. But even then, yeah, you're spending, $9 for
Yep.
this and, $5 for a shake, so bringing, the shakes along is definitely a massive, difference in
You're
travel.
paying for convenience, remember that. That's the reason, the case of water at the store is $3, right? But if you buy, water from the vending machine, okay, it may be $1.50. But then you buy water on the cruise and it's $4. You buy water at the ballpark, it's $8, right? Because it comes down to convenience. Items are going to cost more depending on the situation, right? And I think a lot of times, we fail to prepare ourselves, in these trips. And that's where we kind of get in trouble from that aspect. So, yeah, I think, the tariffs, I'm once again not getting into politics and whether you believe in right or wrong, but, I think it's a positive thing on some of them right now. And hopefully, the average American will get some more money back into their budget. Once again, that's just Jeremy's opinion. And, with that being said, make sure you have a budget where you can slowly work some stuff up. And the second part of that you hit, I am seeing a lot of peptides. And I don't think we have time today to go down the road on all the different peptides. I think that's something we can
Mhm.
make a list and work through some of them in the future. You know, but that's what I'm doing right now for myself is what budgets can I work in, or sorry, what peptides can I work into my budget? Okay. Yes, I took BP 157, TB, is it 500? 5,000.
TB 500,
Yeah,
yep.
TB 500. I took both of those when I was recovering from the bicep surgery, but that was more of short term. I'm not going to take these forever. I need to get to heal this at more of a medical
Mhm.
expense. Okay. Now, what I'm looking at is what peptides do I want to add into myself that I will stay on for a lifetime? Okay. So because I look at hormonal replacement therapy, I look at peptide therapy, not as short term, I'm going to lose some body fat, I'm going to do this. I look at it as, hey, I am wanting to be the best version that I can be 20, 30 years from now. So, what are going to be the things that are going to help me on a cellular level to age better? Okay. We all age. So, I hate to say anti aging, but to feel my best, so that I can live a longer, healthy life. And, so I've added NAD to my budget where I take it on a daily basis along with the testosterone, vitamin B12, vitamin D. And, now I'm looking at, okay, what's next with that? Do I look at one of the ones like some Moreland, for example, that can increase growth hormone? Do I look at something else that's more of anti-inflammatory? Do I stick with BB157? Because BB157 is great at just recovering tissues. So as I've gotten older, a little more tweaks. Feel like there's always something bother me when I go hard. So is it something like that that I'm going to run long term? And once again, that is making the educated decision based on learning more about the peptides, or also it's a financial decision because ordering that in every 2 months or depending on the supply of it, like I have to take that consideration into my budget. So that's kind of where I'm at on peptides, but I'm seeing a lot of it that's out there. And that's the same thing, I guess, for like, hormone replacement therapy. People are like, well, $200 a month is expensive. And I'm like, it's $2,400 a year to feel your best and to optimize your performance. And I would argue this, and you can agree or disagree with me, but if you're paid in your job based on performance, and I could say you could increase your performance for $2,400 a year because you're going to feel much better. You're investing in yourself for a payoff.
Yeah, 1,000%. Set yourself up for success. And the one thing that Scott said, whatever 100 episodes ago, was um, if you're taking these and you need them and all that stuff, and it's $2,400 whatever the year. What happens when you're not having that bill from your doctor? That's your deductible is like $7,000. So you're going to spend $7,000 just to meet your deductible to then keep going to the doctor. When it might not be test, it might be BPC or TB 500, but those things will keep you from spending that $7,000 deductible.
And like I said, and you're healthy and your quality of life and that's and I get it. We all going back to it, we all have a budget, and I think a lot of times with this, especially when I'm talking to people that are a little bit older, it's just a surprise, right? And I got it. You got kids, you got a wife, you got, we're in all this. So anytime that budget change $2,400 a year, that's a big difference. But,
Mhm.
like, plan on it, right? Like, that's the big thing is I would encourage people, hey, baseline blood work done, have a conversation with the doctor about, hey, what does it look like? And then plan on it, right? And those are ways that you will make that money back, once again through what I say quality of life. But if we're looking at it from just a standpoint of being able to perform better, from that standpoint. And especially on social media, the thing that we're about the peptides, a lot of these peptides companies are not medical establishments. Like it's like, hey, take this peptide, not even take this peptide, not for human consumption, for research purposes only.
Mhm.
Versus, working with like Summit or HRT clinic, you're gonna get a prescription for said peptide and it's gonna come from a pharmacy. Like that's a big difference.
A- And I had this conversation with one of our mutual friends the other day, and they're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna order it off the site. It's like $70 for a whole vial." And it says the whole, yeah, for testing purposes, for animal testing, for like not human consumption. And it's just like, well, I have my blood work, so I know that like I could do this. And it's like at this stage, like I don't think we should, just because our blood work shows that we could probably use it, we should go get a $70 vial. Um, Now it might cost that, whatever, but I like going, through Summit and relying on the nurses and the doctors to really dial you in rather than just guessing and throwing peptides at the wall. Because I think you can get into trouble if you start throwing peptides at the wall, even though most of them are not going to be hurtful.
No, great point. Like I think it's just great to have a plan, right? And to have a
Yep.
plan and to be a legit plan. Because once again, you're running into your budget. I would want people to, go back to that conversation. These are things that we want to stay on, for long term to optimize our health, over a long period. So Hey, I want to give a shout out. Yeah, speaking of social media, we'll kind of end it with this. My buddy John Racer, who I actually knew from West Virginia, he's moved down here to Florida now, and man, he's a good person, good dad, strength. Kind of a been a strength coach, been in that domain. He's kind of moved over to more of doing some hardscaping, landscaping, that type of thing as his business. But just a good leader, man, and he's part of our community, but just see him doing a lot of stuff for his son as he's getting into sports, and just reminds me of why it's so important for us to be good role models, right? Especially for kids, and for everyone around us. So
And if you're hearing this, I think I fell into the role. I want to be more not influential on social media, but I definitely want to put it all out there. And so I think everyone they're in a position to make an impact on other people on social media, even if you're not trying to be an influencer. You're not trying to have thousands of followers. Put your best foot forward out there of what you're trying to do, and you're going to inspire other people.
love it. Hey, I love these, man. I think we keep them up because social media is always, quote unquote, giving us things to talk about. Maybe we'll step out of the wellness and education domain on some of these to have some fun with them from that aspect. But appreciate you today, brother. I've got to run. I got another meeting coming up. For the listeners, appreciate you guys. And don't forget to check out our sponsors, especially if you're looking at, truly diving into budget. Look to set up a free consult with Green Up Wealth Management. And then for those that are been on the fence of thinking about hormone replacement therapy or any of the peptides, get your blood work done with Summit. Schedule the consults. Remember, with your blood work, you get the free consult with a physician, and then you can make the decision to work with them or not. And the great thing, if you don't decide to work with them, then at that moment in time, at least you have the blood work as a baseline, so that when you get it done in the future, you can look at the changes that have been made.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Have a great day, guys, and we'll see you soon.
So